Welcome back to Only Talk Sports, and tonight I'm going to be live reacting to the late game in college basketball between the St. Mary's Gales and the Gonzaga Bulldogs. We've got Jackson in the house. What's up, Only Talk Sports Nation? Appreciate you for being here, Jackson. But more importantly, almost in just this game, is the amount of action that has happened in college basketball today. I want to talk about it. I want to get into that. We'll do that during halftime. But still, this game's going to be really solid as well between St. Mary's and Gonzaga because the battle for the WCC is on. Because when you look at the fact that the Gales actually are 8-0 in the WCC, Gonzaga has a loss in the West Coast Conference. They're 7-1. They really need a win. Because if Gonzaga's not able to beat St. Mary's, then they're going to be down 2 games in the conference, and they're not safe when it comes to the bubble right now and the NCAA tournament because Gonzaga really didn't rack up a lot of great wins out of conference, and that's going to really hurt their chances of possibly being able to make the NCAA tournament. So we'll be monitoring that as well. But right now, you've got Gonzaga down 19-18 to St. Mary's, 7 to go in the first half. But Gonzaga, they just knocked down a 3 to regain the lead. Gonzaga was up by more in the beginning of this game. They were up by around 10, but then St. Mary's, they were able to cut back the lead. They were able to take the lead, but Gonzaga's regained it. They've got a great home environment in the Kennel in Spokane, Washington. And like Jackson said, this game is honestly the best college basketball rivalry on the West Coast. Yeah, it's probably better than Oregon State, Washington State, UCLA, USC. I mean, you got UCLA, Arizona, but I don't know if really that counts. To be fair, this has been the premier West Coast rivalry lately. I completely agree with you, Jackson. When it comes to that, Jackson also said it would feel weird if we don't see Gonzaga in March Madness this year. So, just like Michigan State, it would be weird not to see Michigan State in the NCAA tournament as well because they've made the NCAA tournament like 24 years in a row, 25 years in a row. Tom Izzo's always gotten them there, just like Mark Few has with Gonzaga. And if they don't make it, it would just be crazy. I 100% agree with you, Jackson. It's going to be interesting to see. But right now, when you look at the bracket matrix, Gonzaga's not in the tournament field. They are in the at-large section, and the others at-large. So they are on the outside looking in. Gonzaga really needs a win. We'll see if they can get it over St. Mary's right here to be able to tie up the WCC, and they could get the automatic bid if they win the West Coast Conference tournament. But that's not a guarantee with how well St. Mary's is playing. They don't have BYU in the conference anymore. They're in the Big 12, but St. Mary's is still tough. Santa Clara's playing well. But Gonzaga, they just took a 4-point lead. It's 23-19. 6 to go in the first half. That crowd is wild. I haven't done a live reaction in a while either. Been a lot of stuff going on, but I've been able to get back for this game, be able to do a live reaction, talk about some of the college basketball games going on. We've been doing so much college football and NFL coverage, and we'll have the NFL with the Super Bowl coming up. But college football has been crazy. NBA is going to be ramping up with the playoffs getting closer. But college basketball is at the forefront. And these were some great games today with the nightcap, with a great rivalry on the West Coast. Gonzaga missing the shot down low. St. Mary's getting the rebound right there, down by 4, 5:20 to go in the first half. What can St. Mary's do with the basketball? Obviously, they've got a really solid squad. They're 17-6, 8-0 in the conference, undefeated. Randy Bennett is one of the most underrated coaches in college basketball. He's able to bring guys in that you don't think are going to be fantastic players, and he makes them fantastic players. Aiden Mahaney is a great player for the St. Mary's Gales as a sophomore. He was great as a freshman, but still playing well as a sophomore. And they've also got other guys like Alex Dukas that contribute as well. So we'll have to see. Mitchell Saxton's another good player for the Gales. Can they be able to go on the road and knock off Gonzaga? Only time will tell. The Bulldogs, though, they just scored. It's 25-22, 4:44 to go in the first half. But you got Nembhard driving down the lane for the Gonzaga Bulldogs, and he's been a great pickup for Gonzaga because you look at the fact that Ryan Nembhard was at Creighton, and he took them all the way to the Elite Eight, led that team with Ryan Kalkbrenner, Arthur Kalum and Trey Alexander. And then in the Elite Eight against San Diego State, he got that foul called against him late. That was so tough. He decides to transfer out to Gonzaga, where his brother, Andrew Nembhard, who's in the NBA, he also played at Gonzaga after transferring from Florida. So kind of ironic that they both transferred to Gonzaga after playing at another school. But he's been great for the Bulldogs. He just completed the three-point play. It's 26-22. St. Mary's has the basketball right now. You've got Jordan Ross with it. He's trying to find a way to get the ball inside. Nobody is open inside. Gonzaga defending the post very well right now. Aiden Mahaney, the star player for the Gales. He's got the ball at the top of the key. He's trying to drive. Goes up with a layup. He misses it, but down low, the big for St. Mary's lays it in. It's Mitchell Saxon. That's a good play. Cuts it to 2 for the Gales. 26-24. 4 to go in the first. That's a really good play for St. Mary's. If you miss the shot, you always got to have your big rotate over to help out. Anton Watson down low for the Bulldogs, and Gonzaga, he's able to get the shot in. That was a really good play. Anton Watson to Braden Huff. Braden Huff is a freshman, but he is a guy that has been rapidly improving for Gonzaga, helping them out. They need a lot of guys to contribute. With Drew Timme no longer with the program, that's big shoes to fill. Braden Huff, he has been contributing in that regard. St. Mary's driving in. Aiden Mahaney down low to Mitchell Saxon again, and the Gales score again in the paint. 28-26. We're going back and forth in Spokane. Battle for the WCC. St. Mary's currently 8-0 in the conference. Gonzaga 7-1. Bulldogs needing a win. Nembhard down low, and he scores. Gonzaga's back up by 4, 30-26. This is some good basketball. Not a lot of turnovers, not a lot of fouls. That's what you want to see. St. Mary's kicking it into the corner. Thought about the three, decided not to take it. Top of the key for Mahaney, and Mahaney knocks it down. What a shot for the star player for the Gales. You can't leave Aiden Mahaney that open. You got to guard him better than that. And Gonzaga, if they keep giving him open looks, he will make them pay like he did right there. 30-29, 1-point game. Nembhard driving in the lane. He is stripped of the ball, and it is out of bounds off of the Gales. So it will be Bulldog basketball when the game resumes. 2:41 to go in the first half. 30-29 Gonzaga. But I do agree with you, Jackson. It would feel very weird if Gonzaga doesn't make March Madness. Like I was saying earlier, Gonzaga is not currently in the tournament field according to the bracket majors. They are in a few people's brackets, but they're officially out according to all the bracketologists together. And when you look at St. Mary's, they're only a 10 seed. So St. Mary's, despite the fact that they're playing very well and they have a better record in conference play than Gonzaga, and they've got some decent wins out of conference, it's not enough for people to say that they're truly like in the tournament field safely, like they're a 7 seed or a 6 seed, something like that. They're a 10 seed, barely hanging on to that. They obviously have the automatic bid right now in everybody's projections, but still, that's not very comfortable. The WCC, even though there's some solid teams like San Francisco, Santa Clara, Gonzaga, and St. Mary's this year, none of the teams really got good wins out of conference, and that's just kind of dragging the conference down as a whole. So that's going to make it tough for teams like Santa Clara and San Francisco to really get an at-large bid. Gonzaga and St. Mary's is probably the conference's only hope of getting, 2 teams in, because one team's going to get in with the automatic bid. But I do believe at the end of the day, Gonzaga will make the tournament. Obviously, only time will tell, but they're such a good team, and they have been playing better lately. I know they slipped up once in conference play already, but ever since that loss, they have been playing better, and they are playing very well in this game right now. That's why they are up by 1 point. But we are going to talk about some of these other games that have happened today in college basketball when halftime comes. I can't wait to get into some of these games. There's been a lot of great basketball. You can tell March Madness is getting close. We're in February right now, but there have been so many great matchups in college basketball today. You can just tell with the way these players are playing. It's like an NBA player when the playoffs get close. You always play hard, but you start playing even harder when it gets close to the NCAA tournament, when you need some more wins to be able to get an at-large bid, when you want to be able to win your conference and you got a big showdown with another team that you're fighting for the number 1 seed in your conference to be able to claim the regular season title. There's a lot going on in college basketball right now. It's a great time of year. if you are a fan of the sport. And there's been a lot of chaos today, and I'm sure this nightcap's going to end us off very well. Hopefully it's a very close and competitive game down the wire like it is right now, like so many other games have been. Jackson says that Duke and UNC game was fun. For sure. I mean, that was awesome. We're definitely going to be talking about that game. I can't wait to get into it. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Duke, Carolina. I mean, what more could you ask for? It didn't go all the way down to the wire. It wasn't like one play at the end, and that was the deciding factor. But still, it was a very competitive game. Both teams played their hearts out. But 2:41 to go in the first half between St. Mary's and Gonzaga. The Bulldogs to inbound with Ron Nimhart. He's trying to find somebody to pass the ball to. Finally gets over in the corner to Nolan Hickman. You got Graham Ike, the Wyoming transfer. He's got the ball back to Nimhart, top of the key. 5 on the shot clock. Nimhart driving in at the West Coast Conference logo at the free throw line, and he drains the mid-range jumper. 32-29. That's a really good play by Nimhart. Ron Nimhart is probably going to be an NBA player. There's so many guys that are in the NBA. It's so tough to get in if you're not like a top 10 pick, top 20 pick to stay in the league. You might get drafted, but it's tough to stay in the league. But Nimhart, he has all the intangibles. I think he will get a shot in the pros. I don't know how long he'll stick in the league with how many great players, but he's got a lot of great intangibles in college basketball that I think can translate over to the NBA. Kind of like his brother. Don't know if he'll be that good, but he is a solid player. But St. Mary's responds on the other end. Nolan Hickman misses down low, and then St. Mary's gets the rebound. You got Joshua Jefferson there getting the board. St. Mary's bringing it down by 1:35 to go in the first half. Gonzaga playing really good defense. Alex Dukas, he has the ball. Kicks over to Augustus. Then you've got down low in the paint, St. Mary's for 2 right there. Good play by Joshua Jefferson, and the Gales have the lead, 33-32. EK on the block. He goes up on Saxon, and EK misses the jumper. Good defense by Saxon. All you got to do is go straight up. Do not foul. Do not lower your hands. That's what Saxon did on the right block there, and that's what allowed St. Mary's to force the miss and get the ball back. Very good play there. Then you got Dukas over to Jefferson. Jefferson trying to drive on Ben Gregg. Jefferson crossover in the paint. Now he's backing him down with a jump hook, and his shot is a little bit short. Graham Ike, he winds up with the rebound. 40 seconds to go in the first half. 33-32. St. Mary's with the lead. Gonzaga with the basketball with a shot to take the lead, try to go up before the half. Nimhart with the ball. Over to Hickman. Hickman's driving in with a floater, and his shot is good, and the Gonzaga Bulldogs are back in front. 34-33. 20 seconds to go in the first half. Can St. Mary's hit the last shot before the half? We'll have to see. Top of the key being guarded by Nolan Hickman. Very closely. 10 seconds left. St. Mary's trying to drive. You got Augustus going in. Kicks in the corner. 5 seconds left, 2 seconds left. St. Mary's shot is off the mark, and that is it. Jordan Ross could not get the shot to fall, and that is the half. 34-33. The Gonzaga Bulldogs lead by 1. Very good first half between these two teams. It looked like for a second there, Gonzaga might try to run away with St. Mary's. It was around a 10-point lead, but then the Gales fought back. That's what Randy Bennett's squad does. They fight back. They keep it close. That's what they do, and they try to do everything they possibly can to impose their style of play on the team that they are playing. And sometimes that can be tough to do when the team that they're playing is so talented. But I will say, Gonzaga is not the team that they normally been, and I'm sure that most people know that. When you look at Gonzaga and you compare them to some of the teams they've had in the last 10 years, this is clearly an inferior team, but by no means is Gonzaga suddenly a bad team. They've fallen off. They're no good. It's just they're not as good as they were, and that's where the scrutiny comes in because Gonzaga is not ranked. And usually St. Mary's is ranked as well sometimes in a lot of these matchups, but not in this game. Both Gonzaga and St. Mary's, they are not ranked. This is an unranked matchup with both of these teams. Gonzaga was ranked like for 10 years in a row. It's unbelievable how consistent they've been. And yes, being in the WCC, it makes it a lot easier when you're playing a bunch of teams that aren't that great to stay in the top 25, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that Gonzaga has been a very consistent team, and Mark Few has been able to keep them getting players year in and year out at a school that you wouldn't think would get top rated players. They've gotten 4-star guys, even a couple 5-star guys. They might not recruit like Kentucky or Duke, but Gonzaga gets some good players, and he's turned these squads into really good teams, and he's almost won the national title a couple times, but just fell short. This is a great program. But when you have a great program and you're having that consistency and you fall off just a little bit, then eyebrows are raised. Is Mark Few still got it? Is he still the right guy to lead this team? I think he is for now. I don't know how much longer he's going to do it. I don't know how much longer he's going to coach, but Gonzaga is still a solid team. But if they do want to make the NCAA tournament, getting this win over St. Mary's would definitely help because the Gales are in better shape than Gonzaga right now to make the NCAA tournament. But now to get to some of the matchups that have just happened today in college basketball. There have been so many great games, so many matchups. This is one of the premier days of college basketball. If you are a fan, if you missed these games, definitely you missed a lot of great basketball. It started out, you had UConn and St. John's. The Huskies were on the ropes for a while. It was around a tie game in the second half. I think they were down a couple points, but then they were able to win over Rick Pitino's squad on the road. Connecticut got it done, won by 13. I mean, not too shocking that they won, but the fact that they were in trouble and could have lost that game and then they were able to pull it out with a comfortable win, that shows you how good UConn is. And they're trying to be the first team since the Florida Gators in 2006, 2007 to repeat as national champion. It's going to be tough for them to do that because there's so many good teams this year, very balanced in college basketball this season, but you never know. They have the squad to compete for a title. We'll see if they can keep it up. North Carolina Duke, to Jackson's point, was a fun game. It always delivers, as Dickie V always says, and it delivered another great game. Duke had won the last 2 games against North Carolina. But then you go out there and you have the North Carolina Tar Heels being able to knock off Duke on their own floor, 93-84. And I think the biggest thing about this game is just how North Carolina, they're getting back to what their identity was when Roy Williams was the head coach. When Roy Williams was the North Carolina head coach, they were going out there and they were running the floor. They always boxed out and got rebounds. They forced turnovers. They played fast. In North Carolina the last couple years, it just kind of seemed like they were getting away from that a little bit, playing a little bit slower, just not boxing out as much, not prioritizing rebounds as much. North Carolina's gotten back to that. And that's good to see. And that's definitely going to help them out in the future this season because they are currently atop the ACC standings. They have a 2-game lead. They're ranked in the top 5. I don't know where they're going to be in the AP poll on Monday since they did lose at Georgia Tech. You could tell they were looking ahead to Duke. But this North Carolina team, it looks like a vintage Roy Williams squad. They're playing well. Duke's a good team, but they turned the ball over way too much in this game. If they had taken care of the ball more, I think they would have had a shot to win. But they just didn't have a chance when every single time they cut it to like 5 or they cut it to 6. Then they would make a mistake and they would turn it over. And then North Carolina was able to extend it back out to 10 or 12. And then North Carolina made their free throws down the stretch. Duke played the foul game. It did not matter. I picked North Carolina to win. I made a video on it. I picked the Tar Heels to beat the Duke Blue Devils. But Duke played well. And if they had to cut down the turnovers, they would have had a shot to win. But a great game in the best rivalry in college basketball. And North Carolina set themselves up in possibly prime position to win the conference this season if they could keep winning. Then you got Houston and Kansas as a part of this triple header of top 10 matchups. I mean, you had 3 top 10 matchups in college basketball today. Absolutely unbelievable. And to Jackson's point, you got a top 10 matchup tomorrow with Purdue and Wisconsin on CBS at 1 o'clock. So 4 top 10 matchups in college basketball on the same weekend. That's insane. I mean, if you had 5 matchups with every single top 10 team playing each other, that would have been even crazier. But 4 as is wild. But Houston, Kansas, I picked Kansas to beat Houston. Made a video on that too. And Houston, they just couldn't make shots. They struggled in Fog Allen to knock down their threes. They didn't get to the line that much. And if you're not getting to the line that much at Fog Allen, you have to be able to counter that with jump shots. You have to be able to make threes. You have to make shots. We've seen like TCU when they were able to beat Kansas in Fog Allen last year. TCU was just draining threes. That's how you win. And they just didn't do that. Kansas played well, and they shot the ball at a ridiculous percentage. They had like a 68% field goal percentage as a team in the entire game. And they only scored 78. They didn't even get in the 90s. So when Kansas shot the ball, they were accurate. They didn't rush anything. They were in control. The fans were on their side. Everything just went their way in this game. Kansas was just definitely too much for the Houston Cougars. Houston's still possibly a national title contender. They have a really good team. Kelvin Sampson's squad plays really good defense. And in a lot of games, they do shoot the ball well, but it just did not happen in this game. And then in the other top 10 matchup, you had Tennessee, Kentucky. I did pick the Kentucky Wildcats to win in this one because I made a video on all three games. Tennessee won. I almost did go with Tennessee because, I mean, Kentucky's youth and their bad defense. That's the problem. I've said if Kentucky could defend, they would have won. Did not happen. Tennessee had their way offensively. I mean, it's like Caitlin Clark in women's basketball. She played today at 38 points. She's possibly could become the all-time scorer in college basketball history in women and men's. It's unbelievable. She's awesome. She's a fantastic shooter. They were able to beat Maryland in women's college basketball. But that's just seeing what Tennessee was doing to Kentucky. Zakai Ziegler, Josiah Jordan-James, Santiago Vescovi, all those guys were just shooting the ball all over the floor. They had their way with Kentucky. And Robert Dillingham, he's a legitimate top 15 pick this draft. And he's going to be a great player next year in the NBA. I think he is definitely, as advertised, he's a fantastic player. He had like 35 points for Kentucky. But when you don't play defense and you can't get stops, you can't win games. And that's the biggest problem facing John Calipari's squad right now. They got the talent. They got the offense. They have the three-point shooting with Reed Sheppard and Robert Dillingham. All those guys. They can really shoot the basketball, but they can't defend. And that's what cost them this game. They gave up 103 points. Granted, a lot of those were fouls at the end of the game, but they just could not get stops. Marquette easily beat Georgetown on the road. That's not shocking at all. But the other game I really want to talk about is this Iowa State-Baylor game. I don't know if a lot of people were paying attention to this one because they were probably watching Tennessee, Kentucky. But this game, I can't even begin to describe how insane this game was. I mean, at the end of the game, Baylor and Iowa State just went down to the wire. And there's just call after call. Referees checking the clock, just all over the place. Fouls being called that you're just blown away with. It's crazy how insane this game was. And a lot of people probably did not see it. But the thing is, it was the events that led up to the ending, that were even crazier. Because Scott Drew got ejected from this game. He got ejected. The Baylor coach, he has never been ejected from a college basketball game as head coach ever. He has been coaching the Baylor Bears for 21 years since 2003, and he has never gotten an ejection. And this is what I wrote on Twitter. I said Scott Drew should not have been ejected. Plenty of coaches do much worse than what Drew did, and they remain in the game. And I completely agree. I mean, we've seen coaches cross half court before, and they haven't been ejected. And all Scott Drew did, he took, I think he kneeled on the floor a little bit past where the coach's box is. And, I mean, he was probably saying a lot of crazy stuff because he was mad. I mean, he definitely a lot of stuff going on in that game, though. It's back-to-back fouls. Iowa State shot a lot more free throws than Baylor, which, I mean, it happens in college basketball. But he was mad. He got ejected, and then it just went downhill from there. I think Iowa State went on like a 20-2 run, and they took a lead, and like Baylor was done. But Baylor came back, and they took the lead. Looked like they were going to win. Then Iowa State shot some more free throws. But then at the end of the game, Iowa State, like 2 seconds left. And then the referees say there's a clock malfunction. And then they give Iowa State another chance because they ran out of time. But then they said it was a clock malfunction. And then Iowa State hit a three that would have actually won them the game. They would have won 71-70 over Baylor. And it would have been an absolute meltdown. With Baylor losing that game, the fans would have been so mad. They probably would have gone crazy. But Baylor was able to win. It was a fantastic game. Referees, calls aside. It was a great game. Scott Drew getting ejected and all that. But there was so much going on in that game. And if you did not see the game live, because I was flipping back and forth between Tennessee, Kentucky, and Iowa State Baylor, if you did not see that Iowa State Baylor game, you got to check out the highlights of that, because it's just crazy what happened in that game. Then you had Cincinnati beating Texas Tech. Cincinnati went on the road, and they beat another team ranked in the top 25. Cincinnati, I think, is beating like 3 teams ranked in the top 25, so they're really building themselves up a resume for the NCAA tournament. I don't think a lot of people were expecting Cincinnati to do this good in their first season in the Big 12, but here we are. Auburn won over Ole Miss. That was a good win. San Diego State knocked off ranked Utah State in the Mountain West. Man, that conference has some good teams. Nevada, Boise State, Utah State, San Diego State, Colorado State. They got some good teams. That is a very underrated conference in college basketball. Florida Atlantic won. BYU beat West Virginia, the team that's struggling the most in the Big 12. No more Bob Huggins. UCF, they beat Oklahoma. Oklahoma's kind of in a little bit of a free fall, and that's what happens in the Big 12. Sometimes you just play 3 or 4 tough games in a row, and it just gets to you. You just can't get a win. That seems to be what's happening with the Sooners right now. Alabama won over Mississippi State by 30, and Alabama has the lead in the SEC right now. They are 8-1 in the conference. It's unbelievable that Alabama's atop the SEC standings. I don't really think in the preseason people would have thought that. But the way they're playing right now, they might actually have an argument to be the best team in the conference. I'm not saying they are. Kentucky, Tennessee, so many good teams still in the SEC, but Alabama's playing very well. We'll see if they can keep it up. Texas won at TCU. Texas has been on the bubble a lot recently, and they've been struggling. Right now, the bracket matrix has them as an 11 seed, but a win at TCU, that's definitely going to help out their NCAA tournament chances. The resume was a bit thin, but that's a good win. Miami beat Virginia Tech. Penn State beat Indiana. Penn State won at Assembly Hall for the first time since 2014. The Hoosiers are struggling right now, and Mike Woodson, his hot seat's getting a lot hotter. I don't think he's going to get fired this season, but Indiana has a talented enough team to be better than 13-9, 5-6 in the Big Ten. They have no quad one wins. They've just added a bad loss now to Penn State. It doesn't look like they're going to make the tournament as things stand right now. They'd have to go on a big run if they're even going to get close to being in the tournament conversation. So we'll have to see what happens with Mike Woodson and Indiana, but not looking great right now. They've had some injury issues this year. Xavier Johnson's been down. Malik Renew's been banged up some. Khalil Ware as well, but still, they're playing a lot worse than people expected. LSU beat Arkansas. Eric Musselman's squad's really struggling this season. Memphis barely beat Wichita State. I don't know what's going on with Memphis. The Tigers look great in December and early January, but they've been in a free fall lately. If they had lost to Wichita State, they'd have been out of the tournament field. Right now, the bracketologists, they still have them in as a non-seed, but they have been falling quickly in the rankings right now, in the net rankings, in the bracketology projections, because they just have not been able to win a game lately. But they were able to beat Wichita State, but not a convincing win. We'll have to see if Penny Hardaway can fix that. South Carolina beat Georgia on the road. That's a good win. The Gamecocks, probably the most underrated team in the SEC right now. I mean, they beat Tennessee. They beat Kentucky. They're like 19-3. They're playing great. Virginia beat Clemson in a close game. I was kind of a bubble watch there. Clemson's kind of falling apart a little bit. Virginia needed a win. They got it. Kansas State lost to Oklahoma State. Not a great loss for Kansas State. They're still in the tournament field. But Oklahoma State, one of the worst teams in the Big 12. Still a good team, but not a great loss. Minnesota beat Northwestern in overtime. Very good win for Minnesota, who is outside the tournament field right now. Northwestern is in, but that's a good win for Minnesota. Cal beat Arizona State. Bobby Hurley's in a lot of trouble as well. That's another coach on the hot seat. And if you think Mike Woodson's on the hot seat or Bobby Hurley, Juwan Howard's seat is absolutely on fire. He is struggling mightily. I did say to someone that said, fire Juwan now, I 100% agree. There's no way Juwan Howard should be the head coach for Michigan next season. I don't want Juwan Howard to be fired. I like Juwan Howard. But the way things are going with Michigan, they're like 7-14 or 8-14. They're horrible right now. Losing to Rutgers on their own floor. I just don't see how Juwan Howard could be the head coach next season. It stings. I really do like Juwan Howard, but things are not going well. Texas A&M was able to beat Florida in a close one. Big win for Buzz Williams' squad. They really needed a win there. Colorado lost to Utah. Colorado's been in a free fall. They're really struggling right now. NC State beat Georgia Tech. Michigan State beat Maryland. Michigan State struggled this season, but Tom Izzo's squad finding a way. Indiana State beat Drake. That was a good game in the Missouri Valley Conference. USC beat Oregon State by 30. Probably the best USC has looked all season, but they've been a very disappointing team this season. One of the most disappointing teams. Louisville beat Florida State. So a lot of great action in college basketball today, but you could tell those top matchups, they delivered some banger games, and that Iowa State Baylor, just to top it off, that this was arguably going to be the best Saturday of college basketball action this season. I don't know if any other regular season Saturday is going to give us this many high-level games all on, sometimes at the same time. There were 2 or 3 games on at the same time that were all great. I enjoy watching as much of these games as I could. And we've got one more game to go. St. Mary's Gonzaga, the second half is about to start. 33-34, Gonzaga up by 1. The Bulldogs right now outside the NCAA tournament field, according to bracketologists, needing a win. We'll see if they can get it in the second half. Nolan Hickman down low. He scores the 2. It's 36-33. They lead the Gales by 3. 19:40 to go in the second half. This has always been one of the best games late at night on the West Coast for years now with Randy Bennett and Mark Few. They've delivered us some really good matchups, and this is looking like it's going to go down to the wire as of now. Top of the key for the Gales. Thought about the 3. Augustus decided to pass it up inside to Jefferson on the block, and Jefferson lays it in. 36-35, 1-point lead for the Bulldogs. Ron Nembhard kicks to Anton Watson. Watson's been an improved player. A lot of people think he has a shot to be an NBA player as well. The Bulldogs still have a lot of talent. They just don't have the wins on their resume. Doesn't mean they're a bad team. Watson trying to back down Jefferson. He spins around, EK down low, but they're going to call a foul. So that bails out Gonzaga because it looked like the Gales were going to take the ball and go the other way. But they did call a foul on that drive. And I think that was the right call because it looked like he did get fouled on the arm. He probably would have made the shot, but Jefferson got beat, and he did foul Watson. So Watson's first free throw is up, and it is good. 37-35. Got to make your free throws in big games like this that could go down to the wire. We've seen a lot of teams today lose games because they miss free throws as well. We see it all year throughout college basketball. Teams that make more of their free throws, turn the ball over less, they usually win the games. Gonzaga 38-35 after Watson hit the second free throw. He's got 8 points, 3 of 5 from the field. Augustus Marcelionis, he's got the ball. He's a solid player for the Gales to complement Aiden Mahaney in the backcourt. Dukas down low to Jefferson, and Jefferson lays it in. The Gales stay within 1 point. Ron Nembhard kicks over to Nolan Hickman. EK, top of the key. Back to Nembhard. Little two-man game. Kicks to Ben Gregg for 3, and his 3's off the mark. But EK fighting for that offensive rebound. He gets it, and there's a foul on Mitchell Saxon down low. Mitchell Saxon is a very underrated player in college basketball. He plays hard every game for the Gales. Very good on the glass. But that time he was beat out by EK, who is a very good rebounder in his own right. But Gonzaga with the ball. Watson on the left block. Kicks out to Nolan Hickman. I think Hickman's an improved player as well. He's still finding his way in college basketball, but he is solid. Watson down low. Misses the shot. Saxon with the board. He didn't let EK get it that time. Marcelionis with the ball for the Gales. He gives it up. Over to Dukas. Down low to Jefferson. Jefferson on the block. Greg guarding him. That was good defense by Greg. He didn't give him any inch on that drive. Now they repost up with Jefferson on Greg. Greg inside defending, and he gave up the 2 to Jefferson. He did good the first time, but that second time he just gave him a little bit too much down there on the block, and he gave up a point. BC Georgia Tech Jackets, appreciate you for being here. It says, what's up? Doing really good tonight. BC, appreciate you for being here. I hope you're doing great as well, but appreciate you for stopping by. Great basketball today in college basketball. Wrapping up with this nightcap. Figured I'd live react to it. I talked about all the games during half that happened today. It's been amazing watching these games today, but I can't wait. See what happens in this one as well. Saxon down low. He could not get the shot in over EK. Gonzaga going back the other way, down by 1. Back to Nembhard. Finally, the ball is in his hands. Hasn't been the last couple possessions. Gonzaga Their offensive sets run a lot better when they do give him the ball at the top of the key. Let him pass it down low. EK with a jump hook. He misses the shot, but Ben Gregg on the glass, getting the rebound, laying it in. 40-39. 16:40 to go in the second half. Back and forth affair in Spokane. Battle for the WCC lead. If St. Mary's can win, they'll have a 2-game lead in the West Coast Conference, which will be bad news for Gonzaga, who's currently on the outside looking in for the tournament. St. Mary's scores again down low, 41-40. BC says, anytime my team, Georgia Tech, fell to NC State today, this is entertaining, though. Yeah, that's a tough loss, but at least Georgia Tech did spoil North Carolina's party this week before North Carolina was able to beat the Duke Blue Devils, stop a 2-game losing skid in that series. But Georgia Tech, I mean, they're not a horrible team at all, but they just aren't consistent. It's going to take Stoudemire some time to get Georgia Tech playing better basketball consistently in the ACC, but the talent is there in the future possibly to get it done. We'll have to see. They're just not a very consistent team. I think there's a better shot Georgia Tech can turn it around with Stoudemire than in Louisville is with Kenny Payne. Louisville's struggling right now. Louisville is getting a little bit better. I'm hoping Kenny Payne can turn it around, but I don't know if he's going to get the time. It's just not that great right now for the Cardinals, but they are better than last year. But it's been an entertaining day in college basketball. Like, if your favorite team didn't win, I mean, you're just being treated by all these other games. Maybe you're wishing your team was playing as well as some of these other teams, but still, it's been a great day of college basketball. I knew it was going to be good, and it has delivered just like the Carolina-Duke game has delivered. But you've got Gonzaga knocking down a 3 with Ron Nembhard. Bulldogs reclaim the lead. St. Mary's has the basketball again down the low. Blocks Saxon, trying to drive on Anton Watson, and he cannot hit the jump hook. Ron Nembhard down the floor to Watson. Thought about the 3, decides to give it back to Nembhard. Nembhard back to Watson. Watson trying to drive at the free throw line. Kicks to EK. What a pass, but EK couldn't handle it. But EK ends up with it. Kicks to Hickman for 3. His shot's off the mark. EK somehow gets the offensive rebound again, but he's fouled by Saxon down low. EK is working down there. You could tell this is kind of basically a rivalry game. It is in the WCC anyway. Even though Gonzaga is in the state of Washington, St. Mary's is in the state of California. Both these teams play super hard when they play each other because they know how important it is for the conference standings and for their NCAA tournament hopes, especially this season. Both teams giving it all that they got. BC says, my thoughts exactly, completely inconsistent. We just can't lose to North Carolina football or basketball. Some great games tonight. Yeah, for whatever reason, Georgia Tech, they got North Carolina's number. Like in football, they won in football with Drake May 2 years in a row. I mean, I'll never forget the game, not this past season, but the year before, where Josh Downs dropped the touchdown pass late. Drake May threw a perfect pass. Georgia Tech won that game, and then they won again. It's crazy. Georgia Tech's improved in football. You know, definitely Haynes King has brought some juice to the offense. But definitely Georgia Tech is an improved football team. And in basketball, I think there is potential as well. But definitely inconsistent. I guess it's better to be inconsistent than bad. But being inconsistent is one of the most infuriating things in the world. Because, like, if you could play this well one game, why can't you do it the next? It's definitely frustrating. But, man, I just can't believe how many great games just all happened today. Like, you talk about Carolina Duke. You know it's going to happen. You know ESPN's going to hype up the game, and it's well-deserved most years. But, like, last couple of years, I don't think Carolina Duke had as much juice as it normally did because one of the teams, or even both of the teams, just weren't as good. This was a top 10 matchup between Carolina and Duke. And it delivered a fantastic game. I mean, it wasn't like one of the all-time classics where, oh, this play, you know, is going to go down in infamy in the series, you know, and determining the outcome of the game and the result. Wasn't anything like that, but it was a great game. But then on top of that, you had Tennessee, Kentucky, top 10 matchup. You had Houston, Kansas, top 10 matchup. Iowa State, Baylor, a game most people probably didn't even see because of the Kentucky-Tennessee game. That had some wild antics that I explained during halftime that if people saw, they know. It was wild. Scott Drew getting ejected. It's nuts how crazy that game was. And there was other great games too. BC Georgia Tech said, my heart dropped when that ball was thrown. Inconsistent prop for all Tech sports. Thanks for your thoughts. Oh, you're welcome, BC Georgia Tech. I love talking college football, college basketball. That's why I do it. every day, or at least I try to, as my slogan says at the beginning of my videos. I love talking sports, and I try to keep up with every team as possible. It's tough. There's so many good teams out there, so many bad teams out there. There's tons of teams. Try to keep up with all of them. So if anybody has questions, want to talk about a certain team, I try to definitely offer my thoughts, but you're definitely welcome, BC. I just appreciate you for being here, hanging out tonight. We've got a great second half to this game. Can't wait. The countdown's already on for college football. The countdown's already on, for the NFL once the Super Bowl happens. But I'm just like living the moment here. We got college basketball right now. NBA playoffs going to be coming up in a few months as well. The Super Bowl's right now, and then you're going to have look forward to the next season. The XFL USFL merger. The UFL is coming up in a month. So I can't wait for all of this stuff to happen. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'll definitely be here to cover as much of it as I can. Probably be back for more live reactions. So, I haven't done a live reaction in a while. It's been very busy, so much stuff going on. But I was glad I was able to hop on here tonight and do this game. Just wanted to talk about how great this Saturday of college basketball was. Unbelievable. And tomorrow you've got Purdue, Wisconsin, a top 10 matchup on CBS on Sunday. That's going to be great as well. Obviously, people saw Caitlin Clark scoring 38 points in women's college basketball for Iowa. It's crazy. And people saw Stephon Curry scored 60 points, but they lost. The Warriors didn't even win. He needs help. The Warriors are going to struggle big time in the future this season if they do not give Curry more help around him. He's doing everything he can. But another two teams that are doing everything they can is St. Mary's and Gonzaga. It's 45-41. The Bulldogs are up by 4. They were able to split the free throws. St. Mary's, though, just turned the basketball over. Nembhard running out in front of the defense for St. Mary's, and he missed the layup. Had a great look there. Just could not get the shot to fall. Then you got Aiden Mahaney knocking down the 3 for St. Mary's to cut it back to 1 again. And if you are Gonzaga, you have to guard Aiden Mahaney. You cannot leave him open. I know that it was a little bit of a breakdown on defense there in transition, but man, you can't leave him open. And then EK on the right block. You can't give him that much space down there either. He's going to bury a bucket every single time. He's got 10 points, 4-9 from the field. So we're going back and forth in Spokane. Hummus Hero, appreciate you for being here. Good evening, Jeffrey and friends. This is a great game. Great day of college basketball. I hope you've enjoyed watching the Hummus Hero today. Appreciate both of you guys for being here. St. Mary's down low. Augustus Marcelionis, he knocks down the short jumper there off glass. 47-46. St. Mary's, they keep cutting it to 1, but they have failed to regain the lead for the last few minutes. But EK, he missed the shot. And it looked like St. Mary's was going to get the ball, but then Anton Watson somehow was able to grab it when Aiden Mahaney did not end up with the ball. See, that's what is the problem sometimes in these close matchups. You look to a few plays, and a play like that where St. Mary's gets a stop, and they're able to possibly be able to take the lead if they can get that ball, go down the court and score. They didn't end up with it, and then they end up fouling Anton Watson. He did miss the free throw just now, but still, that's a big play because St. Mary's could have taken advantage of that, and they did not. Got to get your rebounds. They have let Gonzaga get a couple offensive rebounds in the second half that has prevented them from being able to take the lead. Watson did hit the second free throw, so it's a 2-point game, 48-46. St. Mary's still playing well, but got to get the rebounds. 13:20 to go in the second half. Hummus Hero says, I didn't watch much basketball today. I watched the Senior Bowl, then had some stuff to take care of. Oh, for sure. Definitely a lot of stuff going on. Everybody's lives, you got to do stuff besides sports for sure. So definitely understand that. But Senior Bowl, yeah, you got that going on as well. People talked about, how some of the players play. I think Spencer Rattler won MVP, and he only threw for like 60 yards and a touchdown because they rotate so many quarterbacks. But that's cool for him. But definitely, that's going to be interesting to see how all that shakes out with the NFL draft coming up in a couple months too. But 48-46, St. Mary's. Top of the key, EK fouls. Marcelionis, not a good foul by EK. No reason to reach in there. I get it, the instinct. You want to try to get a deflection, but that was not a good foul. Hummus Hero said this is a good game, though, for sure. I mean, there's been so many great matchups. I mean, there's so much stuff going on in sports in general right now. It's one of those times of year where if you're a fan of multiple sports like me, where I'm trying to watch a lot of it as possible, and you got stuff you got to do. There's just a lot of stuff. It's crazy, for sure. That's the way sports rolls. Try to cover and follow as much of it as possible. But when you get some great days like today, with so much stuff going on, NBA, women's college basketball, men's college basketball, Senior Bowl, you just got to take advantage of it. You don't get many days like this with all this great stuff to watch for sure. But St. Mary's, they missed a three on the inbounds there, but then Anton Watson right there, he was not able to save the ball from going out of bounds. And St. Mary's, they get the ball back, 48-46. Gales trying to take the lead, but they have failed to do so for a while. I think they had the lead last time with like 17 to go in the second half. There's 12-20 to go. Not crunch time yet, but St. Mary's does need to make their move in the next few minutes. Or Gonzaga, especially toward the end of the game, and if fouls come into play in that environment, it's going to be very tough for the Gales to win. Ben Gregg thought about the three, kicks to Nembhard, down low to EK on the left block. EK driving in, he's getting double teamed, back out to Hickman for three, and his shot's off the mark. He had a really good look. Ben Gregg trying to save it from going out of bounds. He actually did, but St. Mary's ends up with it. All that effort for nothing for Ben Gregg. That's tough. 11:50 to go in the second half. Gales down 2. Aiden Mahaney, best player for St. Mary's, top of the key, driving in. He goes up with it. What a drive. I thought he might have been fouled, but there was no call. If that was actually no foul, that was great defense from Gonzaga, but that was a really good attempt by Aiden Mahaney. He just could not get it to fall. Nembhard swings it down low to Anton Watson. Watson on the right block, going up with it. His shot's no good. Jefferson with the board for St. Mary's. Back to Mahaney. If I'm St. Mary's, I'm allowing Mahaney to try that again, drive inside. But instead, they kick to Jefferson for a three, and it's off the mark. He sat there a little too long. When you think about the three, sometimes you can't knock it down. 11 to go in the second. Nembhard, crossover dribble, decides to back it back out. Now he's at the logo at around midcourt thinking about his next move. Someone's got to set a ball screen. Here comes EK. Nembhard in the lane. He missed the layup, but he's fouled. That was a really good drive by Nembhard. Thought he was going to get the shot there, but couldn't get it to fall. But he will have free throws out of the timeout. Hummus Hero says you should do a Super Bowl live reaction, Jeffrey. That would be awesome. Yeah, for sure. That would be definitely cool. I don't know if I will be able to do it. Definitely time will have to play a role there, but that's definitely something to keep in mind. It's a great idea. Appreciate that, Hummus Hero. Would be awesome for sure, but we'll have to see how it goes. I definitely will be doing more basketball streams. Definitely, you got the Big Ten tournament, SEC tournament, all the conference tournaments coming up, and then you've got March Madness. I did some streams last year for that. I'll probably do a few more regular season streams. I think the last game I did was the Jimmy V Classic with UConn in North Carolina. That was a really good game. And then until the end, it kind of became a bit of a blowout, but it wasn't really a big blowout. But that was still a fun game to do, but just haven't been able to do it since. BC says, well, about bedtime for me and Eastern time. Thanks, Only Talk, for a great night. Some great commentary. Looking forward to a video tomorrow. Thank you. Appreciate that. I definitely should have a video coming out tomorrow. I'm probably going to do a preview of Kansas and Kansas State, the Sunflower Showdown basketball style. You got the football rivalry that's been pretty solid recently with the development of Kansas football actually being good for once. They've actually been solid with Lance Leipold, but then you got the basketball version of the rivalry. So I probably should have a video on that. But I've been doing preview videos for these college basketball games. There's been so many great games recently. But definitely, I really appreciate that, BC. Hope you have a great night. We've got 10:49 to go in the second half. And this game, it always has big stakes in the WCC with how St. Mary's, Randy Bennett, they're always the underrated team. People talk about them like, St. Mary's, they're a good team. They're out there, consistently making NCAA tournaments. They're ranked, every now and then, but still. Gonzaga gets all the headlines in this league. And they've been that team for the last 10, 15, 20 years. In the WCC, but now they have adversity. Because even though they're 16-5, 7-1 in the conference, they're not in the NCAA tournament field as of now, according to the bracketologists. Right now, they are the third team out when you compile all the brackets together and where they are ranked. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens down the stretch and these other teams and these other conferences and how they perform. Like the Big 12, some of them are going to cannibalize themselves. Some of these teams are going to lose and they're going to fall out. Like, maybe if Oklahoma keeps losing, TCU, like those teams as of now are safely in, but some of these teams might beat each other up. And we'll see how it works in some of these other conferences, the SEC. But Gonzaga is going to have to, I wouldn't say go undefeated, but they're going to have to win almost every single game down the stretch of the season to get in because they just don't have the metrics to get in the tournament field based on the way that their season's gone and how they didn't get that signature marquee win in the non-conference. Like, they usually play 4 or 5 games against really good opponents in the non-conference, and they usually are able to win 2 or 3 of them. But this season, they weren't able to get it done. And this would actually be a quad 1 win for Gonzaga because if you look at the net rankings, St. Mary's is 21st in the net. And since St. Mary's is 21st in the net, Gonzaga could get the first quad 1 win. That would really make the NCAA tournament committee consider them more for an at-large bid. If they somehow, some way do not win in the WCC tournament, which is possible. They could lose to St. Mary's in the conference tournament or Santa Clara. So that's going to be the interesting thing to monitor when it comes to Gonzaga. So if they can get this win, that will kind of alleviate all the problems, and it would afford them another loss or 2, I believe. Hamasiro says, is Sabonis still playing? Yeah, Sabonis, he starts for the Sacramento Kings. He's been playing very well this season. Down low, you've got Aiden Mahaney scoring for the Gales, 49-48. 1-point game. The Gales, they have a better resume than Gonzaga just by a little bit. That's why they are currently in the tournament field as a 10 seed, and they have the automatic qualifier as well. But a loss here wouldn't damage their chances, but a win here would give them a 2-game lead in the WCC, would really help them have a great shot to win the conference and improve their tournament resume as well because Gonzaga is 26th in the net, and it would be a good quad 1 win for the Gales. But Gonzaga just scored a 2, so it's 51-48. Mahaney at the top of the key, kicks in the corner to Jefferson. Jefferson trying to drive at the free throw line. He goes up with it, and his shot's off the mark. EK with the board. Gales down 3. Nembhard pushing it. Probably a good time for Gonzaga to try to get out in transition. And see, that's the biggest thing with St. Mary's. They don't allow you to get out in transition. They're kind of like Virginia, but to me, they don't play as slow as some of those Tony Bennett teams have in the past. They don't really play too fast either. They're kind of just, they take what they can get. If an opportunity's there, St. Mary's will go for it. But a lot of times they just go for the best opportunity that's presented to them. And if it takes 25 seconds on the shot clock, that's how long it's going to take them. And then when you look at them on defense, they always get back on defense. They really try to prevent transition opportunities. And that's what's prevented Gonzaga from scoring 90 points in this game. That's why they're only at 51. They just called a foul on Anton Watson on the block. You had Mitchell Saxon driving in. Mitchell Saxon is a big guy. Very tough to slow him down in the low block. And Watson picked up that foul. St. Mary's is 6 fouls. Gonzaga is 4. Hamasiro said, he starts for the Kings. Yeah, he's a really good player. He was an all-star snub. A lot of people thought he was going to make the all-star game, but he did not. Saxon down low. He scored 51-50, 1-point game, and this is where St. Mary's has lived in this game. They've been consistently down 1 in the second half, but they are in striking distance, but can they get stops? Gonzaga, though, they've been scoring very consistently every time St. Mary's cuts it to 1. You got Ben Gregg needing help at the top of the key. Finds Graham Ike. Almost loses the basketball, but he does regain control. Kicks it to Nembhard. Nembhard with the ball, driving in. Nembhard going up with it. He loses the basketball out of bounds, and it's Gales basketball. The Gales have their chance here. If they can go down the floor, hit a jumper, they can retake the lead for the first time in around 7 minutes. And Mark Few, he senses the tide. Could be turning a little bit, so he calls a timeout. He's got 2 timeouts remaining. St. Mary's has 3 timeouts remaining. 8:37 to go in the second half. The Bulldogs clinging to a 1-point lead at home. But definitely Gonzaga. It's going to be interesting to see what happens for the rest of their season, regardless of how this result goes. Because even if Gonzaga does win this game and they do slip up to another team or two in conference play, it could knock them right out of the tournament. I think, obviously, the safest bet for both teams is just to win the WCC. But St. Mary's and Gonzaga can both get in. I don't really know what scenario would make it better, for a two-bid WCC. Like, whoever wins or loses this game is going to make it a better chance for there to be a two-bid WCC. I would kind of say it would almost be better if St. Mary's wins this game, because, like, if they don't win, then I think they just, for me, like, Gonzaga would have more of that appeal. Like, okay, they're a really, big brand in college basketball now. They're not like a brand like Kentucky or Duke, but more people know about Gonzaga. Like, maybe that would help their chances out. Like, if they lose to St. Mary's, but then they win out the rest of the way, and then they lose, like, in the WCC final to St. Mary's again, then Gonzaga would still sneak in. But like with St. Mary's, if they don't win, they haven't also slipped up either yet. And maybe their chances of slipping up would be a little bit more likely than Gonzaga. I don't really know, especially with Gonzaga having more talent. But St. Mary's is so well coached. Either way you go, the loser of this game, it's going to hurt their chances of making the tournament. Not going to eliminate their chances, but both teams are in a precarious position. And it's so tough, too, because St. Mary's being 21 in the net and Gonzaga being 26 in the net, you would think they would both be safely in. But see, the issue for St. Mary's is they have 2 quad 3 losses. That's their problem. And quad 1 and quad 2, they actually are 5 and 4, which is really good. But those 2 quad 3 losses definitely do not help. And then Gonzaga, they don't have a quad 1 win. That's why their chances aren't that great right now. Because St. Mary's, their 3 quad 1 wins kind of overrule those 2 quad 3 losses, whereas Gonzaga, they don't have a quad 2 or quad 3 loss, or quad 3 or quad 4 loss. They only have 1 quad 2 loss, and they have all 4 of their losses in quad 1, but they don't have a good win to negate anything. So that's tough. I mean, 13 of their 16 wins are over bad teams. So, like, they have no resume. Their resume is nil. Basically, I mean, you're looking at a Gonzaga team, instead of being 16 and 5, the only games that the NCAA Tournament Committee cares about is quad 1, quad 2 for the most part. They're 2 and 5 in those games with no wins over great teams. So, yeah, I would say that it would be better for St. Mary's to lose this game for a 2-bid league. Gonzaga needs this win. Gonzaga needs it more, even though with the brand appeal, yeah, I would say the other way around, but Gonzaga really does need this win. They really do need it. Hummus Hero says, playing in the WCC, it's hard to get really good resume-boosting wins some years. Yeah, for sure. And, I mean, the league has some good teams this season, but they just don't have enough of them with great net rankings. Gonzaga was in the top 10 earlier in the season, I think, for sure. That's exactly correct, Hummus Hero. They were, but they fell out because they weren't able to win none of their bigger games. And obviously get wins over Loyola, Marymount, Pacific doesn't help you get back in the top 25. Maybe a win over St. Mary's would. I believe, to be honest, that whoever wins this game has a shot to be ranked. I don't know if they will be ranked, but St. Mary's, probably St. Mary's more so because of the fact that they will be undefeated in the WCC, getting a road win. But both teams do have a shot to get ranked with a win. Hummus Hero says Indiana State is 24th. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, they're 24th in the net in the Missouri Valley Conference because they're 3 and 3 in quad 1 and quad 2. They actually have a quad 1 win, which Gonzaga doesn't. And most of their wins are over bad teams too, but still, that's very impressive. I think Drake is decently high as well. Yeah, Drake's 52nd, and they're in the Missouri Valley. Indiana State beat Drake today. But see, San Francisco, they're 61 in the net. So, like, if you're able to win at San Francisco, that's a quad 1 win. I don't know where Santa Clara is. I'm trying to find Santa Clara. Yeah, they're 103. So that would be a quad 2 road win. That doesn't really help you at home. But, yeah, just not a lot of teams in the WCC that can help you get NCAA tournament resume boosting wins. It's just not a lot there for Gonzaga or St. Mary's. So they have to take advantage of the chances that they get. And that's why both these teams are playing so hard. It's not just a rivalry game because both these teams are the 2 best in the league. It's the fact that this is for a lot more than that. This is for the conference league. This is for possibly being able to make the tournament if you fail to win the WCC. So it's going to be interesting. Both these teams, you can tell, are tournament quality. St. Mary's always is, and when they make the tournament, they usually win a game. They find a way because they're just that well coached. They're that well disciplined with Randy Bennett. That's why he's been there so long. And then Gonzaga, the talent's there with Graham Ike, Ron Nimhart, Anton Watts, and Nolan Hickman. They got talent. They just don't have as good of a team as they've had the last few seasons with the Drew Timmies, guys like that. They've had a lot of good players. I mean, Kyle Wilcher kind of like started it off with like the amount of great players that they had. You know, Rui Hachimura. It goes on and on. They've had a lot of good players. Corey Kispert, Brandon Clark. So Mark Few, he's built a juggernaut program out there. Hummus Hero says Pepperdine isn't good this season, I assume. Yeah, I don't think Pepperdine is having a good season at all. They're definitely closer toward the bottom of the WCC. I mean, I don't think, like, as a whole, if you ranked all the conferences, I don't think the WCC would be, like, near the bottom. Obviously, there's worse leagues. But there are still some bad teams in the WCC. Like, San Diego is 245 in the net. Or 244. They were 245 yesterday. See, that's not good at all. So that win doesn't help you at all. Pepperdine is at 253. There you go. They're 7-14. So Pepperdine doesn't help out either Gonzaga or St. Mary's. So that's tough to have a team at 253 in the net. I don't know if there's anybody any lower than that. I'm looking real quick. Oh, Portland's 306 in the net in the WCC at 6-15. That's bad. So yeah. And see, Gonzaga and St. Mary's, they rack up wins over these teams, and it doesn't really do anything for them. Like, you have to beat these teams by a lot to help the net ranking, which is why St. Mary's and Gonzaga are high in the net. But it's not only being high in the net, you have to have the quad wins, and they just don't have it right now. But we'll see what happens. We've got 7:50 to go in the second half. St. Mary's with the basketball, and they got fouled down low. So St. Mary's has a shot to take the lead. Hummus Hero said they used to have some decent teams. Yeah, it did seem like in the past, like BYU helped the league. BYU, I will say, helped the conference because they had a lot of seasons where they were very competitive. And now that they are no longer in the WCC, they're in the Big 12. That kind of hurts the WCC. But yeah, the other teams used to be pretty decent, just not having a lot of luck this season. Outside of St. Mary's, Gonzaga, and if you count San Fran and Santa Clara. Both teams are decent, just not good in the net rankings. And then you've got Aiden Mahaney, the Gales' best player. He knocks down both free throws, and St. Mary's is in front, 52-51. 7:40 to go in the second half. Nolan Hickman's got the basketball. He's trying to drive, but good defense by Augustus Marcelionis of the Gales. He knocks it out of bounds. Michael Williams, appreciate you for being here. He says Zags versus St. Mary's is always a pretty good game. These two teams are very familiar with each other. They lost a lot with Drew Timme not coming back. I completely agree. Really appreciate you for being here, Michael Williams. But yeah, both these teams always deliver good matchups late at night. A lot of people stay up for these games. Maybe this game doesn't have as much luster because neither team's ranked, but still, look at the record. 17-6 for St. Mary's, 16-5 for Gonzaga. This has been some high-level basketball to top off a high-level day of college basketball with top 10 matchups galore. It's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see what happens in this final 7 minutes to cap off this day. And we've got Purdue, Wisconsin tomorrow. Made a video on it that Jackson pointed out earlier in the chat. Appreciate for plugging that, Jackson. I have my thoughts on that matchup as well. I will have more preview and predictions coming up soon. And I will be going live more in the future probably when I can for more college basketball games. But Anton Watson on the right block. He was able to go over his shoulder and get the hook shot to fall, and the Bulldogs have retaken the lead. We're going back and forth, 53-52. Watson in double figures. Jefferson with the ball for the Gales. Backing down Ben Gregg. He goes up. Looked like it might have been some contact. No call. Gonzaga ball. 6:20 to go in the second half. We are starting to get in crunch time. Ryan Nembhard directing traffic. Drives in the lane. Kicks to Hickman. Thought about the three twice. Instead gives it back to Nembhard. Nembhard's shot is off the mark. Gales with the board. 6 to go in the second half. Marcelionis over to Jefferson. In the corner to Dukas. Saxon on the left block trying to get open. He cannot. And then Marcelionis, he took it all the way to the cup. He could not get the shot to fall. Gonzaga back the other way. This is definitely a low-scoring affair. Both teams playing really good defense. Hard-fought game. EK on the right. Block/post. He's trying to back his way onto the block. He is. He's going inside. Goes up with it. his shot falls, but I think they might have called the foul before the shot. They did. So no and one for EK. They called that foul on Saxon. Saxon is 4 fouls. That's huge for St. Mary's. By far the Gales' best post player, and he has 4 fouls. If he fouls out of this game, then that's definitely going to help out the Bulldogs and Graham EK being able to dominate down low. So if you're a Gales fan, you cannot have Saxon foul out. He's going to the bench right now. I think everybody's going to the bench. It is a timeout. Looked like at first he was going to be taking a breather, holding on to those 4 fouls. But Randy Bennett, he might roll the dice out of the timeout, leave him in. And that might be a smart move. As long as Mitchell Saxon does not pick up his 5th foul, it would be better for St. Mary's to leave him in the game. 100% Michael Williams. I agree. Johnny Williams, Kevin Pangos, they've had some great players. And that doesn't even include Rui Hachimura, Brandon Clark. So many guys. Kyle Wilter. Michael Williams says, shoe with records. Do you still think Memphis will make the big dance? 1-4 in the last 5 games. The way Memphis is playing right now, I would say they're not going to make the tournament. They have the resume. I mean, Memphis definitely has the resume to be an NCAA tournament team because they've won games over some solid opponents. But the way they've been playing lately, if they keep racking up bad losses, they will not make the tournament. And it's shocking, too, with how well they were playing earlier in the year. See, they're 77 in the net right now, and they have good quad metrics in the top 2 quadrants. See, 6 and 4 in quad 1, quad 2, but now they've lost a quad 3 and a quad 4 game. They just lost to UAB. So I will say, if Memphis goes back to the way they were playing when they were on a hot streak and they were winning, then they will make the tournament. But if they keep losing games and they keep playing the way they did today, barely beating Wichita State on their own floor, they won't make the tournament. They're still in the tournament field as of now, however, as a non-seed, but they are rapidly dropping fast. Penny Hardaway is going to have to figure things out with his squad. But 5:33 to go in the second half, past midnight on the East Coast. 53-52, Bulldogs lead by 1 in the battle for the WCC lead. St. Mary's 8-0 in the conference, Gonzaga 7-1. It's been a great day of college basketball. Appreciate everybody for being here, staying up this late. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Share the stream out on social media. But we've got 5:33 to go. Appreciate everybody for being here. We might have a great finish on our hands to wrap up this great day of college basketball. And Graham EK, he puts the Bulldogs up by 3 by knocking down both free throws there. St. Mary's with the ball. The crowd is getting very amped up in the kennel. How will the Gales combat that? On the left block, you've got Jefferson trying to drive on EK. EK looked like there was a foul, and they are going to call it. EK got a little too physical. He was trying to prevent him from getting inside, and they call a foul. I mean, he didn't really get much with the hands, but I think the bodies where they called the foul on. They've been letting a lot of contact go in this game. There's been a lot of fouls today in college basketball that were not called. Like in the Carolina Duke game, there were a lot of calls that should have been some fouls in that game that they didn't call. But I'm glad they let the game be free. It made the game a lot more enjoyable. But still, some of those were fouls. But now Gonzaga has a bit of an issue like St. Mary's does because EK has just picked up his 4th foul, like Saxon's. St. Mary's is leaving Saxon in, but Gonzaga's brought in Braden Huff, the freshman. I guess Mark Few trusts him enough to be able to play in the game at this stage with EK out, but Huff does give up a 2 to Saxon. Saxon is 13 points playing with those 4 fouls. If I'm Gonzaga, I'm attacking Saxon on the block. Bulldogs up 1. 4:50 to go in the second half. Anton Watson trying to find a guy to pass the ball to. He finds Nembhard. Nembhard double team. Kicks to Watson. Over to Hickman. Thought about the 3. Hickman driving in with the floater. It's short. Jefferson with the board. 4:30 to go in the second half. Jefferson being guarded by Watson. He's trying to ask for a ball screen. He doesn't get it. And there is a foul on the block, I think, by Braden Huff for being also like with EK, battling too much with Saxon down there, and they're going to call a foul. I think Gonzaga's now in the bonus too. Gonzaga has 7 fouls. St. Mary's has 7 fouls. But Mitchell Saxon, Can he knock down the free throws to possibly give the Gales the lead? Playing with 4 fouls. Very smart by Randy Bennett to leave him in as long as he doesn't pick up his 5th foul. And his first free throw is good. We've got a tie ball game. 55-55. It's been a very competitive game. Great defense. Solid offense at times. Gonzaga's 11 of 14 at the line. St. Mary's 6 of 8. So that means St. Mary's has hit more shots. And the second free throw, it rims out for Saxon. You got to take advantage of your opportunities at the free throw line when they are given to you, especially when you are on the road, at least for St. Mary's. Saxon split them to top the game, but they could have taken the lead. Watson over to Ben Gregg. Ben Gregg trying to get it to Nembhard. Almost a steal by Augustus Marcelionis of St. Mary's, but Nembhard does still end up with the ball. 4 to go in the game. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Nembhard to Braden Huff for 3, and his shot's off the mark. It was in and out. That would have gotten the crowd really going in the kennel, but St. Mary's with the ball. Augustus Marcelionis, he kicks it over. Trying to get it to Saxon. Saxon is not open on the left block, so they give it back to Aiden Mahaney, the star player for the Gales. A sophomore. He was great as a freshman. Still been great this season. Mahaney down low. What a play by Mahaney. He has an NBA potential. He definitely is a really good player. He has NBA potential, I believe, even though a lot of people do not have him on draft boards. I don't know if he will ever get drafted, but he is a really good player for St. Mary's. 57-55, 3:10 to go in the second half. Nembhard down low to Braden Huff. Braden Huff kicks to Nolan Hickman, almost a turnover. 5 seconds on the shot clock. 3 to go. Hickman for 3, and it's off the mark. Jefferson with the board. St. Mary's is just grinding out possessions here, slowing this game down. They're forcing Gonzaga to take all the time in the shot clock. They're defending without fouling. And then St. Mary's, they're taking smart shots on the offensive end as well, and they're bleeding this clock. We're down to 2:45 in this game. Mahaney dribbling around at the top of the key, trying to drive by Huff. Nowhere to go. Kicks to Jefferson. Jefferson takes a step back 3, and it's good. St. Mary's is up by 5. 60-55. 2:34 to go in the second half. What a shot by Jefferson. Joshua Jefferson, nowhere to go. Clock is going down, and he takes a step back 3, and that was right off the heels of the great drive by Aiden Mahaney. And now the Gales lead by 5. Gonzaga is in trouble. If you are the Bulldogs, I believe taking Graham Ike out of the game was a mistake. I do understand Mark Few not wanting his player, his most important post player, to foul out of this game too early. But the fact that he sent him to the bench, Braden Huff, I'm not saying Braden Huff's done bad being in the game. He almost hit a 3. He did give up a couple layups from St. Mary's, but this tide in the game is turned when Graham Ike left the game with 4 fouls. St. Mary's left Mitchell Saxon in. And then you got Mahaney going out there in that tough layup. Joshua Jefferson hitting that 3. And now it just looks like a mistake by Mark Feudal to take Graham Ike out. I get it. I totally understand it, but that is tough. Hummus Hero says, I was thinking of Marcelionis earlier when I asked if he was still on St. Mary's. Got my NBA Legends kids mixed up, laughing out loud. Yes, he's still on St. Mary's. It's a tough name to pronounce. But Augustus Marcelionis, he's a solid player for the Gales. Aiden Mahaney, Mitchell Saxon get a lot more of the attention, but he definitely can play as well. But that's funny, Hummus Hero. Hummus Hero says, Sabonis played for Gonzaga. I think that's probably why I got confused. Yeah, Sabonis is a really good player. For sure. It doesn't get enough credit, I don't think. I think a lot of people, talk about him like he's one of the better players in the NBA, one of the better centers in the league, but he is a lot better than people give him credit for. And you are right, Hummus here. He did play at Gonzaga. He played, I think, back in like 2015 or so. So, yeah, that's why you got confused there. I totally get that. Because I was like, Sabonis is one of the better players in the league. Hummus here was asking me, like, is he still in college? Like, what? Like, no, he's really good. He's in the NBA. And that's funny, Hummus Hero. But appreciate you being here. Definitely, you can get mixed up with some names. I do it all the time. Just so many teams, so many players to keep track of. But right now, if you are a Gonzaga fan or a St. Mary's fan, you got to be on your feet, whether you're at the game or you're watching it on your TV or phone at home, because, man, this game's going down the wire, and it's so important for both teams. St. Mary's, they're 8-0 in the WCC. If they win this game, they will have a 2-game lead over the Gonzaga Bulldogs in the standings. They'll have another quad 1 win on their resume. They already have 3, but if they can win at Gonzaga, they'll have 4 quad 1 wins, and Gonzaga currently has 0. That's why Gonzaga is not in the NCAA tournament field. As I've stated earlier, they're currently barely out of the tournament field. They have to get this win, in my opinion, if they want to feel good about their chances of making the tournament. This loss will not eliminate them. They still have a chance if they could just find a way to basically win out. And obviously, if they win the WCC tournament, they're fine. But they cannot lose this game if they want to be an at-large. They have to be able to find a way in the final 2 minutes to get a win over the Gales and get their first quad 1 win of the series, since they did not pick up any in the non-conference, which is so rare for the Bulldogs. Top of the key, Ben Gregg. He missed the 3, but then he got his own miss and he laid it up and it did not go in, but he got fouled. That's a great play by Ben Gregg. Ben Gregg shot the 3. He missed the shot, but he followed up his miss. And he got fouled. Is that Saxon's 5th? If that's Mitchell Saxon's 5th foul, that is a tough blow to the Gales. Randy Bennett is furious. It could have been on Barrett as well. Barrett was down there on the block as well for the Gales. Luke Barrett. But I don't know. They might be calling this on Saxon. Plus, I think they might be looking for a goaltend. That might be another reason why Randy Bennett's so mad. Was that blocked? I wasn't even paying attention to that, man. Randy Bennett, if he keeps it up, you don't want to get a tech. It would really blow the Gales' chances. We already saw with Scott Drew. He got a 2 technical fouls. Not even really that bad, but he did in the Baylor-Iowa State game, which led to the chaos in that one. We saw Chris Collins get ejected in the Purdue game recently. So a lot of coaches losing their cool, getting very mad at referees. People have been talking about it all over Twitter the last few days. It's crazy. I guess that's what makes college basketball so much fun, is the discussion, the games, seeing what's going to happen. But definitely, coaches are not happy with referees for sure lately. Chris Collins, Scott Drew, Randy Bennett. I don't think he's going to get a technical. Randy Bennett usually stays composed, but so does Scott Drew. He's never been ejected, and you saw that, so you never know. But they're reviewing this, 2:05 to go. That's another thing I think a lot of people get frustrated about in college basketball lately, is how long the end of games take, especially if you're on the East Coast. You got to go to bed, maybe get up, go to church, go to work, whatever you got to do, and you're trying to watch the rest of this game you've been invested in. And sometimes these late games, it happens in college football too, they just do not end. It just continues. They're going to the monitor, they're reviewing it. I know Jay Billis has said all the time, and he just wished, like, whatever the call is on the court, like, even if it's wrong, just roll with it. No one would even complain. But when you go to the monitor, everybody sees the replay, and then it just gets furious. But, again, it's all part of the game. Got to get it right. The crazy thing about it is, though, is we're not under 2 minutes. There's still 2:05 to go in this game, and yet they're reviewing it. Usually it has to be under 2 minutes, but I guess you can review goaltend, but usually you would review it during a timeout. But this is interesting. We'll have to see what happens. But Gonzaga, another thing is they don't have any timeouts. So that hurts them, especially when you're trying to inbound the basketball. And if St. Mary's is doing full court press, you're not going to be able to call a timeout. So we'll see how that affects Gonzaga. Them not having any timeouts could definitely impact them. St. Mary's smartly has 2 timeouts left. Always smart to me to have at least 1 or 2 timeouts at the end of a game. I know some coaches use them at key moments in the game earlier, like if the tide's turning, you want to keep it at bay, but I think you still have to leave at least 1 timeout. And you used to have 5 timeouts in college basketball. Back in the era when you had a 35-second shot clock, you had 5 timeouts, but they reduced it to 4 with the amount of stoppages and replays that there are. But they gave him the bucket because it was 60-55. So I guess they called a goaltend, and Ben Gregg is at the line for a free throw. 2:05 to go. So that really worked out for the Bulldogs. His free throw, though, is off the mark, and Saxon got the board. So they did not call the foul on Saxon. It must have been Barrett. What a relief for St. Mary's. So even though all that wasn't that good for the Gales with a goaltend and a foul, at least they did not lose Mitchell Saxon for the rest of the game just yet. He's still playing with those 4 fouls. EK's back in for Gonzaga with his 4 fouls. 1:40 to go. St. Mary's with the basketball. Aiden Mahaney driving in. Kicks to Saxon. 2 seconds on the shot clock. Good defense from the Bulldogs, but no, they call a foul. Gonzaga did everything right on that possession. They defended all the way to the end. Looked like they were going to get a stop. But then they fouled Saxon. Was that a foul on Ben Gregg? I think it was. I don't think Graham EK has fouled out. It looks like it was on Ben Gregg. But that's a bad foul. Saxon at the line. He split the last 2 that he shot. And his first free throw was a horrible miss. It was too long, off the left side of the rim. If you're St. Mary's, he's got to hit the second free throw to go up by 2 scores again. Cannot miss your free throws down the stretch. 60-57 in the kennel. Saxon's a 62% free throw shooter. He's now 2 of 6 tonight. He missed the second. What a break for Gonzaga. 1:30 to go in the second half. Nembhard driving into the lane. Looking for Watson. He finds him back to Nembhard. Nembhard driving in. His shot is off the mark, and the ball is off of the Gales. Augustus Marcelionis, I think, touched it last for St. Mary's. That's tough, because if he did not touch that basketball, it would have been off Gonzaga because they missed. But I think, they just showed the replay. That's why we got replay. It takes a while, but you got to get it right. And it possibly looks like Graham EK touched it, because I think Marcelionis would have ended up with the basketball, but then Graham EK poked it away. It's going to be tough to overturn. You know how it is sometimes when you can't tell who it's off of. They just say there's not enough evidence to overturn. But I think there might be enough evidence here. It might be St. Mary's basketball. It's going to be interesting to see what the refs decide, though. You know they're probably going to take a little bit of time here to try to get this right. And I don't blame him for doing that, because this is a very important call. 1:20 to go in the second half. 60-57. We got a 1-score game. Battle for the WCC. Got to get the call right. Yeah, Hamasiro, I agree with you. I think the Gonzaga player actually did touch it. That's what it looks like to me, too. I mean, sometimes you can't tell, like, when there's, like, 4 hands in there and, like, the call on the floor, you got to go with it. You got to stick with it. But I believe in this instance, you got to give the ball to St. Mary's, because I think EK touched it last. It looked like he poked it away, and it looked like his finger was the last to touch. So we'll see who they give the ball to. Both teams have 8 fouls. Gonzaga with no timeouts. This kind of does help out the Bulldogs, though, since they don't have a timeout, that Mark Few was able to talk with his team. Possession arrow, St. Mary's as well. So if there's a top, that goes St. Mary's way. And they do give the ball back to the Gales. That's the right call. Refs got it right. It was off EK. So if St. Mary's can score here, Gonzaga would be in massive trouble. 1:10 to go. Mahaney getting it across the floor to Marcelionis. 1:05 to go in the second half. Marcelionis back to Mahaney. Best player for St. Mary's. He's made big plays in this game and in the last 2 seasons for the Gales. Under a minute to go. 8 seconds on the shot clock. Mahaney drives by EK, and he loses the basketball. He gets it back. Kicks out to Marcelionis, and Marcelionis for 3. Unbelievable. Aiden Mahaney lost the basketball, looked like he was going to lose it out of bounds, and he was able to kick it out. And it swung over to Augustus Marcelionis. Ice in his veins, knocks down a dagger 3. Gonzaga is in trouble. 63-57. They have no timeouts. The Bulldogs do. Absolutely no timeouts. St. Mary's is 2 timeouts. If Gonzaga loses this game, they will still have no quad 1 wins. and they will be 2 games back in the WCC to St. Mary's. So unless St. Mary's would slip up a couple times somewhere else, Gonzaga will not win the WCC this season unless they can win the conference tournament. It's going to be tough for Gonzaga to make it without any quad one wins. We know Carolina. You saw Carolina last year. They won 20 games, but they only had 1 quad one win. They didn't make it. I know Gonzaga's going to end up like with 23, 24, 25 wins or something like that. But still, that's not going to be enough if you don't have a quad one win. Gonzaga really needs this win. But they're going back and looking at this, though. Was the ball still in Aiden Mahaney's hand? I didn't even check that because I did say, how did Mahaney keep that ball in bounds? I don't know. I agree, Hummus Hero. It was cold-blooded by Marcel Leonis. But will the three-point shot stand? They're reviewing this. If that somehow got erased and Gonzaga got a break and we're only down 3, that would be massive for them. The fans are waiting patiently, worried that their team's going to lose. I don't know, though. It's still 63-57, so they might have given it to him. Now there's another referee at the monitor. Man, there's nothing like the end of a college basketball game. The fouls, the drama, going over to the monitor to check whether it's off somebody's hand or if that guy was out of bounds, is it a 3 or a 2. You just can't beat it. It's college basketball. It's crazy. If you got the time to stay up, it's awesome. But if you got to go to bed and you want to find out who wins, it can be tough. But it's been a fun day of college basketball. We're wrapping up with a good one. And they did give it to St. Mary's. So it is 63-57. They gave it to him. Mahaney's foot was not down. Hickman with the ball. Gonzaga's got to hurry up. They're running out of time. 40 seconds to go. Kicks to Anton Watson for 3, and he knocks it down. What a shot by Watson. 1 possession game, 63-60. St. Mary's almost turns it over, but Jefferson ends up with the ball. There's only 25 seconds. Why is Gonzaga not fouling? I guess they're going to play it out. I'm shocked. I am really shocked that they're not fouling, especially Mitchell Saxon, because he has already proven that he's missed a few free throws tonight, 2 of 6 in the line. But Gonzaga is going to play this straight up. Aiden Mahaney down the floor. Call it no man's land. Got to go up with it. 2 seconds on the shot clock. He misses. But they call a foul on the floor. 6 seconds to go. Gonzaga played out that entire possession. But I think they just called a foul on the floor. Hummus here says, I don't like this playing for 1 more possession. I believe Gonzaga needed a foul there. I mean, the foul is available. You know, they allow you to do it. Like we saw Kentucky and Tennessee. We saw Duke and Carolina. That Kentucky just kept fouling Tennessee. Duke kept fouling Carolina at the end of the game. Just over and over with like a minute and a half left to try to come back. It didn't work, but we've seen it work before. But in this situation, you're down 3 and you've got 30 seconds to go. And there's like 6 seconds between the shot clock and the game clock. You have to foul. And you have an opportunity to foul a guy like Mitchell Saxon. That's on the floor. That has struggled at the line. And they didn't do it. I do agree with you, Hummus here. That was a bad decision. Now Gonzaga is down by 3 with 6 seconds to go in the game, and St. Mary's is going to the line. That is just bad for the Bulldogs. They're going to have to hope St. Mary's misses the free throw. And then they're only going to have 5 seconds to do anything with it. And it's very tough to score in that few amount of time. It's possible. But we'll have to see. The ironic thing is I think Mitchell Saxon might be the one shooting these. I think the refs are looking to see if the shot clock expired first, but I think the foul occurred before that. I mean, we're looking at like 4 different things here. Like, who's going to the line? I think it's Saxon. It is the foul before the shot clock expired to the ball at the rim. I mean, this is crazy. 63-60, 6 seconds to go. Both teams are still in their huddles. But I do believe that Mitchell Saxon will be the one shooting the free throws here. And if he is, then Gonzaga might catch a break if he misses. But they're still only going to have 5 seconds. Now they put 6.5 seconds on the clock. So they've added 0.7 on the clock. So they were reviewing how much time was left in the game, which 0.7, you don't think it's a lot, but it does make a significant difference. Gives you an extra dribble. Gives you about around an extra second or so to make a decision to do something. So Gonzaga, that helps them out. St. Mary still has 2 timeouts. Gonzaga has none. I mean, what's the point of even calling timeouts when you get all these breaks and all these reviews to be able to decide what you're going to do? So, like, Gonzaga has no timeouts, but they've been in the huddle more often than not. But Mitchell Saxon with a 1-and-1, 2 of 6 at the line. Can he knock this down for St. Mary's to go up by 2 scores? And his free throw is good. Gonzaga might be donezo after that. That is bad news. 64-60. St. Mary's up by 4, and Mitchell Saxon, who has struggled mightily at the foul line in this game, he's still only 3 of 7, but he just hit a big one, and it wasn't pretty, but it went in, and that's all that matters for the Gales. His second free throw, it is no good. Gonzaga down the floor, Nolan Hickman for 3. It's off the mark, and that's your game. 64. Are they going to count that score by Nembhard? I don't know. It might be 64-62, but regardless, St. Mary's has won in the kennel at Spokane. And they have denied the Bulldogs their first quad 1 win. Absolutely unreal. What a way to close out this great day of college basketball on the West Coast. They did give them the bucket, 64-62. But alas, it does not matter for Gonzaga. They still did not win this game. And Jackson says, looks like Gonzaga will have to win the conference tournament to make it to March Madness. I agree with you. That looks to be the case because, again, they're on the outside looking in right now. 3rd team out of the NCAA tournament field, according to bracketologists. They have a fantastic ranking in the net. 26 is good. I mean, most of the time, if you're in the top 40 of the net, you're in. But you don't have a quad 1 win. That's just not going to get it done. Hummus here says, I know the committee doesn't use eye tests like in football, but Gonzaga looks like a tournament team easily. I agree with you. You're absolutely right, Hummus Hero. If, like, right now, people were making the tournament field in college basketball, March Madness, the 68 teams, I would put Gonzaga in based off of, do I think Gonzaga is one of the 68 best teams? One of the 36 best at-large teams? Yeah, I'll put Gonzaga in. I mean, they're not going to be a high seed, but they're in. They're probably, again, one of the 40 or 50 best teams, but they don't have a quad 1 win right now. And for Gonzaga, really at this point, their best hope is that they can just win out the rest of the way. And maybe, to Jackson's point, win the WCC tournament, which they can still do. Not all is lost here for Gonzaga, but that is a back-breaking blow to their chances. A lot of people thought they would win this game. They were favored. It wasn't by a lot, but they were favored to win this game over St. Mary's because, I mean, it's on Gonzaga's floor in the kennel. That's a tough environment. They were favored by 4.5 points right here, as you can see. 4.5 points. But it doesn't matter if you're favored. It doesn't matter if you're the Gonzaga is more the brand of the WCC. But at the end of the day, what matters is going out there and winning the game. And this was a very tough loss for the Bulldogs. If I didn't make a video for this game, but if I did, I would have predicted Gonzaga to probably win by a couple points. Probably like 68-65, something like that. I would have predicted them to win. But they didn't get it done. So the eye test doesn't really matter here. Gonzaga doesn't have a quad 1 win, and that's going to unfortunately cost them a shot to be able to make the NCAA tournament if they don't get one. The only good thing about it is, though, is that Gonzaga, they do face at St. Mary's. to end the regular season. So if they can get revenge on the Gales, they can still get a quad one win. That would be big for Gonzaga if they can beat the Gales on their own floor. They also play at San Francisco. That would be a quad one win. And they do play the Kentucky Wildcats at 4 o'clock on CBS. So Gonzaga's chances are not nil. So like Jack said, it looks like Gonzaga will have to win the conference tournament. Not necessarily. There's still a couple of opportunities for Gonzaga to pick up quad one wins. But if they don't win those games over Kentucky, St. Mary's, San Francisco, then Jackson's absolutely right. They will have to win the conference tournament. But they can do it. But it's going to be really interesting. Gonzaga falls short to St. Mary's 64-62 on their own floor. Usually if St. Mary's beats Gonzaga, it's at St. Mary's, but they were able to win at Gonzaga. Big win in the WCC for the Gales. They're now 9-0 in the conference. Gonzaga has a couple losses, still do not have a quad one win. Still out of the NCAA tournament field. But it was a great day of college basketball. All those games that were top 10 battles, like Duke, Carolina, Houston, Kansas, Kentucky, Tennessee. It was fantastic watching all of those games. That Iowa State-Baylor game was absolutely crazy as well. If people were able to check that game out with Scott Drew getting ejected, so much stuff going on there with the ending of that game. You had NBA action tonight, women's college basketball. There was a lot of action, but we wrapped up with a good one with St. Mary's beating Gonzaga 64-62. We've got Purdue, Wisconsin tomorrow. So sports keeps on rolling on. I'll be doing more live streams of college basketball games in the future when I can, and I will be doing more videos as well. Jackson, thanks. Appreciate you for plugging my Twitter as well. But everybody, like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Share the stream out on social media. But most importantly, appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Thank you, Hummus Hero, for sticking it out to the end. Thanks for the stream, Jeffrey. Lots of fun. Always lots of fun having you in chat, Hummus Hero, Jackson, BC, Georgia Tech, Michael Williams. Thanks, everybody, for being here. It was a blast. It was a really good game. But St. Mary's wins 64-62, and they have a 2-game lead in the WCC conference standings. It was a great day of college basketball, and there's going to be plenty more days of college basketball to come that are a lot of fun. But I don't know if any are going to be as crazy as this one until March Madness, but it was a lot of fun today, and it's going to be a lot of fun coming up. But appreciate everybody for being here. Hope everybody has a great night. But great win for St. Mary's over Gonzaga, and it was a great day of college